Something is about to shift in your life that will make every single thing you have ever suffered through, every door that closed, every person who left, every prayer that seemed to go unanswered finally, completely, undeniably make sense. You felt it this morning, didn't you? Not a thought exactly, more like a tremor, something underneath the surface of your ordinary day, pressing upward, trying to tell you that this moment, right now, this video, this exact second, is not a coincidence. You didn't find this found you. And there is a difference so significant, so spiritually precise, that I need you to sit with that for just a moment before we go any further. Because what I'm about to tell you is not for everyone. Most people who stumble across a message like this will hear the words and feel nothing. They'll scroll past it the way you scroll past weather reports for cities you'll never visit. But you're still here. And the reason you're still here is the same reason you've always known. Somewhere deep in the place where your spirit is louder than your logic. That your life was meant for something that hasn't fully arrived yet. Something is coming. Something so precisely designed for who you are that, when it gets here, you will look back at everything that tried to break you and finally understand what it was all building toward. But before I can tell you what's coming, I need to tell you what has already been happening, because the story of your next season actually started in a chapter you thought was the darkest one. And the truth hiding inside that chapter is going to change the way you see everything. Stay with me. Section 1. The mystery of why you never quite fit. You have always known you were different. Not in the way people say it as a compliment. Not different like talented or quirky or interesting. Different in a way that sometimes felt more like a burden than a gift. Different in a way that made certain rooms feel like you were wearing a costume. Different in a way that left you standing on the outside of conversations, watching people connect easily with each other while you sat in your own head wondering what was wrong with you. Nothing was wrong with you, but I don't think anyone ever told you that in a way that actually landed. You sensed this before anyone gave it a name. You sensed that the version of you that people approved of was always a slightly smaller version. The one that laughed at the right times, agreed when agreeing was easier, dimmed something inside you so the light wouldn't make other people uncomfortable. And you did it so naturally, for so long, that at some point you stopped noticing you were doing it at all. You just moved through the world quietly carrying this awareness that the fullest version of yourself had never quite been invited to show up. And what do people do when they can't explain why they don't fit? They find someone to blame. Sometimes they blame the world. Sometimes they blame God. And sometimes, and this is the one that leaves the deepest mark, they blame themselves. They decide that the not fitting is evidence of a flaw, that if they were more palatable, more relatable, more ordinary, more easy, then finally the people and places and opportunities that kept passing them by would stop and stay. But here's what I need you to understand. Here's the piece that nobody gave you, and it is the piece that changes everything. You were never supposed to fit. Not because you're broken, not because you're being punished, but because the thing you were built to carry cannot be carried by someone who belongs everywhere. The calling on your life requires a specific kind of solitude, a refining kind, the kind that feels like rejection but is actually protection. Every place you didn't belong was redirecting you toward the place that was being prepared specifically for you. Every group that didn't receive you was keeping you from settling somewhere that was never your destination. You felt this, but you couldn't put it into words. That gnawing, restless dissatisfaction. That inability to fully exhale in spaces that seem to satisfy everyone around you. That was not anxiety. That was not pride. That was discernment, the part of you that knew the answer wasn't here, that the real thing was still ahead, that if you stopped here, you would be trading your destiny for comfort. And you didn't stop, even when you wanted to, even when you were exhausted. You didn't stop. That tells me something about you that I want you to hear clearly. You have already survived the part of your story that was trying to make you quit. The part that was trying to convince you that ordinary was your ceiling. You survived it. And you're still here. That is not an accident. Section 2, the people who left and the ONES who stayed away. There was a season, maybe you're still in it, where the people around you started disappearing. Not dramatically. Nobody announced anything. They just slowly moved their energy somewhere else. The texts got shorter. The invitations stopped. The friendships that you thought were permanent quietly became occasional and then became never. And you searched yourself for what you did wrong, replaying conversations, wondering if you were too much or not enough, or something else entirely that you couldn't quite identify. I need to tell you what was actually happening during that season of disappearing people. Because the truth of it is almost too clean to believe, but it is the truth. Heaven was clearing your environment, not because those people were evil, not because you were better than them, but because the next chapter of your life requires a different kind of companionship. And the preparation for that companionship requires space, real space, uncomfortable space, the kind of loneliness that feels like loss but is actually renovation. When God is building something new inside you, He sometimes has to remove the voices that are too comfortable with who you used to be. Because the people who knew your old self will, without meaning to, keep pulling you back toward an identity that is no longer big enough for where you're going. This explains something that never made sense. Why some of the departures felt random. Why people you hadn't done anything to suddenly became cold or distant. Why certain doors closed not because you failed, but simply because the time in that room was complete. You thought it was about you. You thought it was a referendum on your worth. But it was actually a reassignment, a quiet, sometimes painful rerouting toward the people and places that are built for your next season, not your last one. And the people who stayed, pay attention to them, not the ones who stayed out of obligation, not the ones who stayed because they needed something from you. The ones who stayed because something in them recognized something in them and couldn't walk away from it even when things got difficult. Those people are not accidents in your life. They are assignment holders. They are carrying something you will need, or they are the ones who will need something only you can give. There is something else I need to say here, and it might be the most important thing I say in this entire message. The isolation you experienced was not a sign that you were forgotten. It was a sign that you were being set apart. There is a difference between abandoned and set apart, and the difference is everything. Abandoned means left behind. Set apart means selected for a specific purpose that requires specific conditions. A seed doesn't grow surrounded by other seeds. It goes into the ground alone. The darkness and the pressure and the silence are not punishment. They are the exact environment necessary for what is inside you to finally break open. You felt the loneliness like a curse. Heaven felt the loneliness like a cocoon. Section 3. The major revelation. Why your success was delayed. This is the part that is going to reframe your entire past. This is the part that is going to take everything that felt like failure and reclassify it as something else entirely. I need you to stay with me here because this revelation is going to arrive in layers, and each layer is going to go deeper than the last. You have watched people who worked less hard than you succeed faster than you. You have watched people with less heart, less hunger, less genuine passion for what they were doing walk into opportunities that seemed tailor-made for someone with your level of dedication. You have sat with that injustice. You have wrestled with it at night, lying in the dark, genuinely wondering whether the effort was worth it, whether the faith was warranted, whether the vision you carried was something real or something you had constructed in your own head to protect yourself from the pain of feeling ordinary. Here is what was actually happening. Your blessing was delayed not because heaven forgot you. Your blessing was delayed because you were not yet equipped to keep it. This is not a condemnation. This is one of the most important spiritual laws that almost no one teaches with any honesty. Success delivered before preparation doesn't elevate you, it destroys you. A harvest released into unprepared hands doesn't multiply, it overwhelms. What looks like God withholding from you has always been God protecting both you and the gift. Because the gift was never just for you. The breakthrough you've been waiting for carries weight, real, consequential, life-altering weight, that requires a specific kind of inner architecture to hold it without collapsing. And the time you spent in the waiting place, the years that felt like stagnation, those were construction years. Every disappointment was reinforcing something in you. Every failure was revealing a weakness that needed to be addressed before you could carry what was coming. Every season of delay was God saying, "Not yet," not because the thing wasn't ready, but because you weren't ready for the thing. And the distinction matters more than I can tell you. Think about the person who wins the lottery before they've developed financial wisdom. Think about the person who gets the platform before they've developed the character to steward it. Think about the relationship that arrives before the healing is complete. In every case, the blessing outpaces the preparation, and the result is loss, sometimes catastrophic loss. Heaven's delays are never cruelty. They are calibration. They are the careful, loving hand of something greater than your circumstances, ensuring that when you step into your next season, you step into it as the version of yourself who can actually sustain it. But here's where it gets even more specific, and this is the part I need you to really hear. The enemy of your life knew before you did what you were capable of. This is why the opposition came so early. This is why certain things that should have been simple were made complicated. This is why the warfare felt disproportionate to your actual position. You weren't being attacked because of where you were. You were being attacked because of where you were going. And the intensity of the resistance was always evidence of the magnitude of the assignment. Only a chosen one understands this feeling. The feeling that the challenges in your life have always seemed slightly too large for your current season. The feeling that what you're fighting has never quite matched what you've yet accomplished, as though something is trying to stop a future version of you before that version gets to arrive. You sensed this before anyone confirmed it. That feeling was accurate. That feeling was discernment. And the fact that you're still standing, still breathing, still watching this video, means the opposition failed. You made it through the very season it thought would stop you. Section 4. The gifts that isolation built in you. Here's something most people will never experience. Most people move through their lives surrounded by enough noise, enough distraction, enough companionship that they never have to go deep enough inside themselves to find what's actually there. They skim the surface of their own souls. They never develop the deep interior life that comes from being left alone with God and themselves for long enough to discover things that cannot be taught. They can only be lived. You were given that. It didn't feel like a gift. It felt like loss. It felt like punishment. It felt like being left out of something that everyone else was invited to. But the truth is, the seasons that stripped everything away and left you alone with your own thoughts and your own pain and your own prayers, those seasons built something in you that cannot be manufactured. You have a capacity for depth that people who have never been broken don't have. You have a level of empathy that you didn't develop by reading about suffering. You developed it by moving through suffering and surviving it, and coming out the other side still soft, still open, still willing to believe in something good. That is not a small thing. That is extraordinarily rare. Most people who go through what you've been through come out harder, more defended, more closed. The fact that you're still here, still open, still holding onto hope even when you can't fully explain why, that is one of the most significant things about you. Your pain became preparation. I know that sounds like something people say to make suffering feel meaningful when it might not be, but I'm not saying it to comfort you with a cliché. I'm saying it because the compassion you now carry is the exact credential that qualifies you for what's coming. The people your next season is meant to reach, they cannot be reached by someone who has never been broken. They cannot be spoken to by someone who has never been in the dark. They can only be reached by you, by someone who found their way through the specific darkness you found your way through. This is what others could not understand about you, why you couldn't just move on faster, why certain things stayed with you longer than seemed reasonable, why you processed pain in ways that looked to outsiders like you were stuck. You weren't stuck. You were learning the language of a territory that you were going to be sent back into as a guide. You couldn't rush through the curriculum because you needed to know it well enough to teach it. And now, right now, in this season you're standing in, you are closer to the graduation than you realize. Section 5. Why you attract envy. There is something I have to address because it has confused you and perhaps even made you feel guilty for noticing it. There are people in your life who seem to want good things for you, who say the right things about you, and yet, there is something underneath their words that doesn't quite match. Something in their energy when you share a win. Something in their eyes when you describe something that's working. You've noticed it. You felt it. And then immediately questioned yourself for feeling it. Because who are you to think that people are jealous of you when you haven't even arrived at the thing yet? Here is what's happening. People can sense the anointing before they see the manifestation. There is something carried by a person who has been genuinely chosen and genuinely prepared that registers in the spirits of those around them even before any external success validates it. The favor on your life is visible at a spiritual frequency that other people pick up whether they understand what they're picking up or not. And that frequency creates a reaction in people who are not at peace with their own assignment, a discomfort that expresses itself as envy, as subtle undermining, as a quiet but consistent energy of dismissal. You are not imagining it, and you are not arrogant for noticing it. But here's what matters most. That envy is also confirmation. Because people don't envy empty things. They don't feel threatened by people who have nothing to offer. The very fact that certain people respond to you with that specific combination of drawn closeness and quiet resistance tells you something crucial about what they sense is inside you. They cannot name it. They may not even be conscious of it. But something in them knows that something in you is significant, and that awareness creates an unsettledness in them that they don't know what to do with. Do not let this make you small, and do not let this make you hard. The envy of others is not something you need to manage. It is simply information. Information that confirms what you already suspected but didn't always let yourself believe. Section 6. The shift that is already in motion. Now I need to tell you something that you are going to feel before you fully intellectually process it. Your season is changing. Not will change, is changing. Right now, in the midst of everything that still looks unresolved, something has already begun to move on your behalf. A door that was sealed is developing a crack. A conversation that hasn't happened yet is being arranged. A connection that will change the trajectory of your story is already in motion, already moving toward you, already carrying the specific thing that your next chapter requires. You don't see it yet. You can't see it yet. But the sensing of it, that quiet, persistent, almost irrational hope that refuses to die even in your most cynical moments, that sensing is not wishful thinking. It is spiritual perception. It is the part of you that knows things your eyes haven't confirmed yet. Most people will dismiss this as motivational language. They'll file it away under things people say to make you feel better. But you are not most people, which is the entire point of this message. You know the difference between something someone says and something that actually lands somewhere real inside you. And you can feel, right now, that something about what I'm telling you is landing somewhere real. Here is why your waiting season is ending. Not because you've waited long enough. Not simply because you're tired, but because the preparation has been completed. The character work that was required for you to carry your next chapter has been finished in you through the very suffering you have been asking God to remove. Every disappointment that built your humility, every loss that deepened your gratitude, every failure that dismantled your arrogance and replaced it with a teachability that will be one of the most important qualities you carry into your next season. The work is done. The ground has been prepared. And when heaven says the ground is ready, the seed doesn't stay in the hand. Your breakthrough is not being withheld from you anymore. Section 7. What your next season actually looks like. I want to paint you a picture. Not of the specific external details, because those are yours and they are written in places I cannot fully read, but of the texture of it, the feeling of what's coming, because I believe you need to know what to watch for. Your next season is going to feel different from the beginning. Not noisier, not necessarily more visible, but different at the core, a settledness, a rightness, a quality of arrival that is distinct from anything you have settled for before. You will know it is different because you won't feel the need to convince yourself that you're in the right place. You won't have to override that internal signal that has always told you when something wasn't quite yours. For the first time in a long time, the internal signal is going to confirm rather than resist. The people who arrive in your next season are going to feel immediately different from the ones you've been in proximity to. There will be a recognition that happens fast, a sense of, I know you somehow, I don't know from where. That is not coincidence. That is assignment. Heaven has a way of connecting people whose assignments are linked, and the connection always carries a feeling of inevitability, as though it was always going to happen and you were just waiting to arrive at the right coordinate. The opportunities that arrive in your next season are going to fit you in a way that previous opportunities never did. You won't have to shrink yourself to walk through the door. You won't have to perform a version of yourself that you have to maintain like an act. The opportunity is going to be built for the fullness of who you actually are. And that fit is going to feel so foreign at first that you might almost distrust it. Because you've been shaped by so many things that didn't fit, that something which does fit might initially feel suspicious. Let it land. Let it be real. You are allowed to receive what was always meant for you. Section 8. The declaration you need to make over your life. There's a reason you can't fully step into your next season by simply waiting for it. There's a participation required. Not a striving. You've strived enough, and striving is not what this moment needs. What this moment needs is agreement. An alignment of what you declare over your life with what heaven has already declared. You have spent too long making peace with a ceiling that was never your ceiling. You have spoken the language of limitation so fluently, for so long, that you sometimes don't even notice when you're doing it. The automatic deflections when someone points to something great in you. The habit of minimizing. The constant self-editing in the direction of smaller. That has served you in its own way. It kept you safe, kept you humble, kept you from the dangerous territory of pride. But you have more than learned that lesson. And the humility you carry now is not the performative kind. It's the genuine kind, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself by shrinking. It's time to start speaking in alignment with where you're going, not where you've been. Speak as someone whose waiting season is ending. Speak as someone whose preparation has been completed and whose next chapter has already been written. Speak as someone who doesn't need external confirmation to carry internal certainty, because the certainty was placed in you before you even arrived here, before any of the suffering started, before any of the confusion set in. You were chosen before you were formed. The assignment was given before the enemy knew what to do with it. And everything that has tried to disqualify you has only succeeded in adding more credentials to a calling that was always going to arrive. Say it out loud if you need to, not as performance, as agreement. I am closer than I have ever been. The preparation is complete. The next chapter is already written. I release the version of me that was small enough to survive the hard seasons, and I step into the version of me that is large enough to walk into the good ones. What was designed for me cannot be rerouted. What has been spoken over my life cannot be canceled. I am chosen. I am ready. And my next season begins now. Section 9. The hidden truth about your unique calling. I want to go somewhere specific now, because there's a hidden truth underneath everything I've said that I haven't made fully explicit yet. And this is the truth that changes not just how you see your past, but how you understand your actual function in this world. Your calling is not primarily about achievement. It's not about being known. It's not about arriving at a destination that other people recognize as significant. The calling on your life is fundamentally about impact, specifically the kind of impact that can only come from someone who has walked the particular road you have walked and survived it without losing their essential self. You have been uniquely shaped, not generally, not broadly, uniquely, the way a key is unique to a specific lock. Your combination of experiences, your specific pain, your particular form of resilience, the exact way your mind processes complexity, the precise quality of your empathy, The specific things that make you come alive, all of it is calibrated. Not random, calibrated. Designed with intentionality so precise that the idea that you are here by accident is not even worth serious consideration. The people your life is meant to touch, they are waiting. Some of them are in the same dark space you came out of. Some of them are standing at the same crossroads you once stood at, wondering whether to turn back or keep going. And they will not be reached by a polished version of a person who has never fallen. They will be reached by someone who fell in the exact same spot they're standing, who knows what that particular ground feels like, who can say without performance or pretense, "I know where you are right now, and I know the way out, because I've already walked it." That is your calling. Not the title, not the platform, not the recognition. Those are just the vehicles. The calling is the touch. The irreplaceable, deeply personal, spiritually precise touch of one human life that has been prepared specifically to reach another. And the reach only works because of everything you went through. Not in spite of it, because of it. This explains everything that never made sense. Why your story is so specifically yours. Why your suffering seemed so tailored to particular themes and particular territories. Why you emerged from it with particular insights rather than general ones. The specificity of your pain was always pointing at the specificity of your purpose. And the purpose is bigger than you have allowed yourself to imagine. Section 10. You are closer than you realize. There is a phenomenon that happens in long journeys where the hardest terrain comes right before the destination. Not because the journey is designed to torture you at the end, but because the destination requires you to have arrived with the full development that only the hardest terrain produces. The mountain gets steepest near the summit. The desert gets driest near the oasis. And the spiritual journey gets most intense, most pressing, most heavy, most confusing right before the breakthrough lands. If your life has felt especially heavy lately, I need you to hear this. The heaviness is not evidence that nothing is changing. Sometimes it is the exact opposite. Sometimes the pressure you feel is the pressure of the next chapter pushing against the final resistance. And the final resistance always feels the strongest because it is the last thing standing between where you are and where you're going. You have not come this far to stop now. And I say that not as an empty encouragement, but as a statement of spiritual logic. Everything that has tried to stop you was betting that the cost of continuing would eventually exceed your willingness to continue. Everything that tried to wear you down was counting on your exhaustion to do what the opposition alone couldn't. But you're still here, reading this, sensing this, which means the exhaustion didn't win. The confusion didn't win. The loneliness didn't win. The delayed timeline didn't win. You are still in the race, and the finish line is closer than the distance feels. Your story is not over. Your story is not even close to over. You are, at this very moment, living inside the build-up to the most significant chapter of your life. And when that chapter arrives, when you look back from the other side of it, the clarity you will have about why everything happened the way it did will be almost overwhelming. The pieces will arrange themselves into a picture so coherent, so intentional, so breathtakingly precise, that the word coincidence will not come close to describing it. Heaven never wastes a wound. Heaven never discards a season. Every single moment of your story, the beautiful ones and the devastating ones, the moments of victory and the moments of collapse, the seasons of abundance and the long, quiet, faith-testing seasons of lack, Every moment has been contributing to something, and the something is arriving. Your next season is not a maybe. It is a certainty that has not yet become visible, but visible is coming. The invisible things that have been in motion on your behalf are about to become undeniable. And when they do, you will look at this moment, this exact moment, watching this video, feeling what you're feeling right now, and you will understand why this message found you today instead of any other day.
It found you today because today is the beginning of a new understanding. Today is the day the confusion starts to lift, not all at once, but the lifting has begun. The clarity is coming. The next chapter is opening, and you, the real you, the full you, the you that was shaped through everything was survived. You are finally completely in reversibility, ready for what has been prepared for you. Do not go back. Do not retreat to the familiar just because the new is still forming. Do not settle for the version of your life that is comfortable enough to stop the hunger. The hunger you feel is holy. The restlessness is not a disorder. The sense more that there is still more depth, more impact, more fullness of life. The sense is accurate. It has always been accurate, and it is about to be answered in ways that exceed what you currently have the capacity to imagine. Your uniqueness was intentional. Your isolation was preparation. Your pain became credential. Your confusion is giving way to clarity. Your waiting season is ending, and your next season, the one that was written for you before the hard chapter started, the one that was always coming even when you couldn't see it, the one that carries everything your life has been building toward. Your next season is here. Step into it. You were made for this. This is if this message found you exactly when you need it. If something is this world landed in a place that words don't usually reach, then I need you to something right now. While that feeling is still real, comment the word chosen below, not as a hashtag, as a declaration, as a agreement between you and heaven that you receive what was just spoken over your life, as a signal to the universe that you are ready for your next season and you are not turning back. And if you know someone else who is in the middle of the hard season, someone who is exhausted, confused, questioning their purpose, wondering whether the waiting will ever end, share this video with them, not as a forward, as a deliberate act, because maybe the person you are thinking of right now is the exact person this message was also made for, and maybe you sending it to them today is the beginning of something in their story that you won't fully answer until later.